Hi everybody, this is the Comic Book Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, welcome back to the Comic Book Hut, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So one of my favorite comic book artists of all time is John Byrne, and he has done many things. He's around for a very long time. Started in the 70s, and he obviously did X-Men, sort of a very famous run, obviously, and he's done Superman. We know he's done Superman. Probably one of the more significant runs in Superman, and of course the Fantastic Four. But he's been doing something on the side. He's retired. He doesn't do anything anymore really. Obviously he did a lot of stuff on his own, like John Byrne's X-Men, one of my favorite books. But it's funny about that series is that at the time it was sort of kind of exciting, but I remember looking back upon it, it's a very boring series. And part of it is because he treated the characters very much as close to humanly possible, representations as humans. And a lot of times, most of the time, they didn't have costumes. They're just regular people dressed in regular, civilian attire. But it was a lot of stuff that dealt with, time travel, and it was very interesting. And I look at some of the things that he did in that book, just thinking about it. Very significant. Some of the wording, like triggered, was a word in that particular series. Characters, people in that series, if they got triggered, that means they got superpowers. So you hear that word a lot about people getting triggered. In today's day and age, it's a little bit different. People getting outraged. It's another way of saying it. But he's been working on a series on his own. I guess he's posted pictures on his website, and it's called X-Men Elsewhere. And he's been doing this for years. It is basically an extension of what would have happened, I guess, after the Dark Phoenix saga, because right after that he left the X-Men, Uncanny X-Men with Chris Claremont back in the early 80s, and then he jumped over to do the FF, and plenty of other things like Alpha Flight, very underrated series. But obviously there's been clamor for this for a long time, and now it's going to be published. This is from Comic Book Club Live. I got a couple articles here. Hopefully you like what I got to talk about here. But we got the headline, John Byrne's X-Men Elsewhere to get published by Abrams Comic Arts. Back in the day, classic creator John Byrne actually made 32 issues of an X-Men comic titled X-Men Elsewhere, which has never been published anywhere until now. Abrams Comic Arts, along with Marvel, will publish X-Men Elsewhere as a 3-volume series presenting Byrne's alternate take on the characters. It's really a divergent version because obviously Claremont's not involved in this project. He's doing this project he's done this project on his own. It's all stuff for himself, He's just doing this for himself, amazingly enough. Decades ago, John Byrne was part of an iconic run on the X-Men as co-plotter and artist, along with writer Chris Claremont and inker Terry Austin. Then, about 7 years ago, Byrne co-inker Paul Willis, colorist Laverne Kanzerski, and Leonard O'Grady, and letterist Byrne and Patrick Rosol returned to those storylines with one big difference. At the end of the Dark Phoenix saga, Jean Grey survives. Wow. Well, that was the controversy back then, was what they were going to do with Jean Grey, because Jean Grey had destroyed an entire solar system of aliens. And Jim Shooter said at the time that she had to pay for that crime. And part of that was they killed her off at the end of that storyline. So that was like a big thing back in the 80s, that a hero killed an entire race of people, an entire solar system. So that was sort of the punishment. And obviously a few years later she came back, and I guess in Fantastic Four 286, I believe. I could be wrong about the number, but again, with this what-if style change, reverberations throughout the Marvel Universe happen, and X-Men Elsewhere Volume 1 will find the characters traveling to the Savage Land, fighting the Sentinels, and interacting with the Fantastic Four, Avengers, Spider-Man, and more. Oh man, I gotta get this. They say you can't go home again, said writer-artist John Byrne via a press release. They're wrong. John Byrne has done something truly unique here said X-Men Elsewhere series editor Chris Ryall, who used to be the editor, I believe, at the editor-in-chief at IDW. He's created all new X-Men adventures that not only serve as a reminder of why Byrne's past work on these characters was beloved and influential, while at the same time presenting all new and relevant stories that will captivate newer X-Men fans as well. The 3 volumes of Elseworlds will be released as part of Abrams' Comic Arts Marvel Arts line and run over 600 pages. Wow. Volume 1 will hit in April 2026, Volume 2 in fall of 2026, and Volume 3 in spring of 2027. All 3 volumes will be released as 7.5 by 11 hardcovers and feature over 200 pages of story and art each, as well as bonus material. That's awesome. You get like an original story. Quote, "We're incredibly excited to be publishing X-Men Elsewhere with John Byrne," said Joseph Montag, publisher of Abrams Comic Arts. "This project is something truly rare. It offers a chance to revisit one of the most iconic runs in comics history, told by the original co-creator's own voice. Byrne's passion for these characters comes through in every page. We're proud to bring this long-awaited story to readers through our Marvel Arts line and to add such a meaningful project to the collaboration between Abrams and Marvel." I mean, this is awesome. Here's the cover for, I guess, the first issue, The first volume. Where is it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is this is going to be an awesome story to read. I mean, because it's going to be very, nostalgic. And it's an original story. I mean, that's the best part about this. This is an original story. And Byrne is very well known as a Mr. Fix-It. He was known as a Mr. Fix-It when it came to back in the 80s. Obviously, he fixed the Fantastic Four to where they were kind of rudderless for a long time before he got there. And then obviously his run on Superman, he basically reset the character and brought back a lot of things that people liked and just kept things away that wasn't very strong. And a lot of stuff you see, specifically with Superman, stuff that you saw in some of the recent movies. Man of Steel, all the stuff that was in on the planet Krypton were designs that were inspired by John Byrne. Zack Snyder had admitted that was the case. The story, the X-Men story of Days of Future Past, was the artwork brought to life on the big screen. That was obviously by John Byrne, that icon, with the little twist of it being Wolverine going back in time. Because in the comic, I believe, it's Kitty Pryde. I've never read that, by the way. But this is exciting. I've been a big John Byrne fan pretty much my whole life. So when I first discovered him, I think it was Fantastic Four, I think. And then I saw his Alpha Flight stuff. I was like, what is this? This is fantastic. Got all these characters. And what's interesting about that particular series is that they were only together as a team. He only had them I think he did about 30 issues or so. When he jumped over to do Incredible Hulk, he only had them together as a team twice, which was very interesting. In the very first issue, he had them as a team, and then in issue 12, he had them as a team. And obviously, in issue 12, we saw the death of Vindicator, also known as Guardian, who was the leader of Alpha Flight. That's the only time we ever saw the team together, was those 2 times. In the very beginning and in the middle of his run. It would have been interesting to see what that run would have been like if he kept doing it. But that was a series that was all of his own. Obviously, those characters were brought in during the Uncanny X-Men series, and then he took over for that, the first Canadian superhero team. But this is a very exciting time if you're a fan of Byrne and a fan of the X-Men. The current stuff, we're not going to get into how bad it is in this video, but I guess. But this is exciting, and to see stuff, you'll get very nostalgic. He's also done stuff, done in-between stories on the X-Men, to where he did like X-Men Hidden Years, which was a very good series too, that he did, I guess, maybe in the early 2000s, late 90s. But this is very exciting, and I probably will be purchasing. I don't purchase too many things these days. But this I will definitely go out of my way for. Anything with John Byrne and his name, that's a brand name, you know. And you get it if you can get it. So, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Comic Book Hut. And I'll see you later.